Okay, so this is the second lesson on angles that we are doing. This is lesson 1.6. We're talking about angle pairs and different relationships that angles may have. Okay, so let's first talk about adjacent angles. All right, so adjacent angles are angles that share the common side. So like my classroom is adjacent to Ms. Blanchard's classroom because we share a common wall. So adjacent angles are those angles that share a common side. So I've listed here, you can see that in the packet of notes that I gave you, that angles 1 and 2, those are adjacent angles because they share this common side. 2 and 3, same thing here, okay, and etc. So 1 and 4, they don't share a common side, okay, they're across from each other, we would say. 2 and 4, they have an angle in between them. There is no shared side there. All right, and then we're going to go to vertical angles. All right, so vertical angles are two. This is the formal definition of vertical angles. And then I'm going to tell you how to identify it just with how to look at a picture and determine if you have vertical angles. So vertical angles are two angles with sides that are opposite rays. So we talked about opposite rays in the basic definition lesson. So here's our common endpoint, okay, and here's angle A. All right. Okay, then you have angle B here, and here's our common endpoint, right? So they share that common vertex, and this is opposite rays right here. Let me put the highlighter to it. Okay, so one side that's making up angle A and another side that's making up angle B, they are opposite rays. All right. And then you have the same thing here. You have a set of opposite rays. All right. So that makes angle A and angle B vertical, and same as angle C and 120. So angle A and angle B are vertical. And 120 degrees and angle C are vertical. Okay, so another way to look at it, if you're just looking at an illustration, angles directly across from each other, okay? Directly across, all right? You can draw a line connecting the two, bringing them together. Now, right here, this sentence says, find the angle measures of angles A, B, and C. All right, so in the last lesson in 1.5, we talked about finding the value of an angle given two angles, all right? Either you were told what the total was, or we talked about straight angles and right angles. And so angles that form straight angles add up to 180. Angles that form right angles add up to 90. So if you look right here, okay, if you cover up C and B, angles C and B, you can see that 120 and A make that straight angle. So because they make that straight angle, 180 minus 120 is 60. All right, so that's the value of angle A. Now, if I want to do I'm just going to go all the way around the circle, okay? It makes a complete circle here. So I'm going to go around. So now, looking at angle C, and change the color like I wanted it to. Okay, angle C, all right, and A. So if I cover up 120 and B, A and C make that straight angle. So 180 minus 60, because I just found angle A was 60, is 120. Okay, so that's the value of angle C. Then B, you could either use C or this 120 here, same difference. those two angles make a straight angle. So therefore 180 minus 120. Oh, wait, I did that already. It's 60. So now we've stated that A and B are vertical. And look, they have the same value. 120 and C we said are vertical. And look, they have the same value. So that means we can conclude that vertical angles are always going to be congruent. Vertical angles are always congruent. Make sure you write that down, add that in your notes. Okay, vertical angles are always congruent. All right. The last vocabulary that we're going to discuss on this one is linear pair. It's a pair, meaning two. So two angles that form a line, linear line. Pair of angles that form a line. So obviously these two angles, 5 and 6, will add up to 180. Okay, so what can you tell me about these two angles here? Okay, so X and Y make a straight angle, right? Which means X plus Y adds up to 180. Now, we learned way back in the basic vocabulary lesson that if two angles add up to 180, that means they are supplementary. So you have this in your notes. And remember, I told you it's going to be one of those terms. Make sure you know the difference between the two. Make sure you know it. Make sure you know it. Make sure you know it. So write it again. Make sure you understand that the definition of supplementary is two angles that add up to 180. Okay. Now let's look at this illustration. Okay. You have a right angle. You have A and B. Okay. Right angle, 90 degrees. So A plus B equals 90. When you have two angles that add up to 90 degrees, we talked about that as well. Same time we were talking about supplementary angles. The two angles that add up to 90 are going to be called complementary. Okay, so that's complementary angles. Again, I told you when we talked about that lesson, make sure you know about those two different terms. All right. Now we want to compare and contrast in this one. All right. So what could you say is the similarity? All right. What would you say is the similarity between the two? Well, they both making a straight angle. Okay. So yes, both sets of angles are going to add up to 180. Right. That's the similarity. It's obvious. Difference, you're probably thinking, well, this is two angles. These are three. Correct. They're both going to add up to 180. Now, can we call both sets of angles supplementary? No, we cannot. We can only call this set of angles supplementary because only two angles can add up to 180 and be called supplementary. You can have angles that add up to 180 just forming a straight angle like M, N, and R. But X and Y here, two angles, those are supplementary. All right, same concept as the last slide. All right, both sets of angles are forming right angles. Both sets of angles are going to add up to 90. Correct. However, by definition, you can only say two angles are complementary. Here, this is three. That's not going to work out. Okay.